Welcome to America. Over the weekend, 49 people from South Africa entered the United States via the refugee program to start a new life. But there are some people who are just a little bit upset. Why? Because not one of them is named Juan or Jorge.
That's fucked up, man.
I'm Jazz Berganza on this. The amount of hypocrisy still amazes me.
Bullshit?
4 years, millions of illegals flooded the border.
That is true.
And not one said a damn thing.
Come on, man.
Go figure.
Give me a little break here.
But it's what's next. What's up, everyone? Jazz Berganza, What's Next? Daily Dose, common sense, facts, and salt. If you guys are feeling good today on this Tuesday. Well, you might have missed it. Small little story that might have gone underneath the radar. With all the talk about Pope Leo, formerly Robert Prevost, out of Chicago, hardcore, hardliner, badass, who's not too fond of Francis back in the day, and who slams Hollywood, you might have missed it. Did you know that there were a group of refugees that came into the country? What? Where? From the border? On inner tubes? Were they bust in? Were they flown in? No, they came here the legal way. They came here from South Africa. 49 refugees, men, women, children, came here via the refugee program to start a new life. But there are some people who it's not sitting well, who are a little, who are a little butthurt, their butt cheeks are a little tiny. They're clutching their pearls. Their rectums are clenching. Why? Because not one of them is named Juan or Jorge. Gee. The hypocrisy. Gotta love it. This coming from Breitbart. Episcopal group quits refugee program over white South African arrivals. And that is them right there. An Episcopal group is quitting the taxpayer-funded refugee program because the President Donald Trump is importing white South Africans whose lives are threatened. Quote, just over 2 weeks ago, the federal government informed Episcopal Migration Ministries that under the term of our federal grant, we're expected to resettle white Afrikaners from South Africa who the U.S. government has deemed classified as refugees, said the May 12th letter from Sean Rowe, the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church. The letter continued. In the light of our church's steadfast commitment to racial justice and reconciliation with our historical ties with the Anglican Church of South Africa, we are not able to take this step. Accordingly, we have determined that by the end of the fiscal year, we will conclude our refugee resettlement grants agreements with the U.S. federal government. It has been painful to watch that one group of refugees selected in a highly unusual manner receive preferential treatment over many others who have been waiting in the refugee camps or in dangerous conditions for years. I am saddened and ashamed that many of the refugees who are being denied entrance in the United States are brave people who worked alongside our military in Iraq and Afghanistan. But let's hear from Stephen Miller.
But what's happening in South Africa fits the textbook definition of why the refugee program was created. This is persecution based on a protected characteristic, in this case,
he
race.
is part of the Trump administration, if you didn't know.
Persecution. The refugee program is not intended as a solution for global poverty, and historically it has been used that way. Wherever there's global poverty or wherever there's dysfunctional governments, then the U.S. refugee program comes in, swoops people up, relocates them to America, and you have multi-generational problems. Even into the second and third generation, you have endemic poverty, you have crime issues, you have integration issues. The U.S. refugee program in America has been a catastrophic failure.
It's kind of hard to argue with facts.
At the Twin Cities area, just in terms of markers of educational outcomes, in terms of public safety, in terms of welfare use. It's been a complete public policy failure. And so this is an example of the president returning the refugee program to what it was intended to be used as.
No lies detected. 49 Afrikaners, whose lives are threatened in South Africa, landed in Dulles Airport in Virginia on May 12th. Another 70,000 mostly poor, rural, white South Africans applied to join the program. Have applied to join the refugee program. The arrival of legitimate refugees was greeted with hate and disdain, shocking, by pro-migration groups and the media. Quote, my read of this is that the administration is trolling the left. Mark Krikorian, director of the Center for Immigration Studies. He added, admitting these few dozen Afrikaners is kind of like trolling to the left to find one immigrant, one refugee group that they don't want. These numbers are small, but the Episcopal Migration Service dropping out of the refugee business rather than helping these guys, so Trump's trolling is already working. Of course it is. Krikorian said the Afrikaners deserve an exit from South Africa because as a minority group, a deeply hated minority group, they will never achieve or exercise any political power. And their departure from the presence or their presence isn't going to change anything in South Africa's future. That's true. He also noted that the hostile black majority has left them with only two alternatives. A, the suitcase, or B, the coffin. Wow. Since 1988, the Episcopal Church and Episcopal Migration Ministries has been well paid by the federal government to settle more than 100,000 individuals into American communities. The group makes it clear that it favors imposing diversity on Americans. Every year on July 20th, we celebrate strength, resilience, stories of refugees on World Refugee Day. This year, our marking this important event will be even more special as we join the celebration of Pride Month, because of course you had to, throughout the month of June, providing resources and inspiration to local communities to action through our Rainbow Initiative. Is that the same as Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition? Just throwing it out there. More than 3 million people have been selected for refugee migration to the United States since 1980. The huge inflow from Congo, Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Burma, and many other foreign cultures has been a boon for local employers and government officials, but a huge burden for Americans who's lost wages, housing affordability, education opportunities, career development, and civic clout. Many South Africans have already migrated to Australia, and amid the Australian government's inflows of Indians, Arabs, and Chinese to the country, Australia wants them. Let them go there, Krikorian said.
You have a lot of...
I've talked to some people that been at the protest, and he's still in custody wherever. But I think that the problem here is that you're talking about the mayor of a city where people are being held without due process in many cases.
Right.
So he has the right to say, wait a minute, I want to know what's going on here. Why are people being held without due process? Now, you contrast that at the same time, the New York Times is saying that President Trump is saying to white Afrikaners from South Africa, I'll give you refugee status. So we're bringing in white Afrikaners who we don't know if they're criminal. We don't know this, what they went through in the legal process in South Africa. But people right here in Newark, we're going to assume they're all criminal. We're going to bring them out. And if the mayor wants to say, wait a minute, let's have due process, lock him up. He's trespassing. It is as blatantly a double standard as one can get. What is the real policy going to be? And I think he's right. Judges have to establish, are we going to have due process? Or are we just going to let everybody go? And can the president just give other people blanket, you're refugees? So what's the difference, Mr. President, between a refugee and a guy that may be a criminal and may not be, given the Garcia situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm...
My thoughts. Well, funny how for 4 years under dementia, 15 million illegals under dementia from all walks of life, not just Mexico, other South American states, South American states. Did I say South American states? South American countries. Didn't have a problem with that, including those in Arab countries as well, blended in, as they crossed the border. 15 million illegals. And dementia didn't see a damn thing wrong with it. The media didn't see a damn thing wrong with it. Politicians didn't see a damn thing wrong with it. While those Americans on those southern, on the southern states, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, where you have people, citizens living in those states who have been, bombarded by illegals over the decades, not just years, decades. Dementia was just the latest, but the worst offender of them all, and not a damn thing. You didn't hear it. You didn't hear Sharpton. You didn't hear Sharpton make a peep for 4 years. Kept their mouth shut. Oh, there's nothing wrong here. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. We're the melting pot, aren't we? You know, we're America. We're the melting pot. So all are welcome. All are welcome. Come to America. No. You have a legitimate gripe by legitimate people from South Africa who not just a minority, but a hated minority. White South Afrikaners have gotten killed just for being white in that country. Now you're saying, well, you know, same thing happens over here. You know, black people just getting killed left and right and center, you know, be from dirty cops and what have you. Really? It's called statistics for a reason, and your stats don't back it. So let's move on. But the hypocrisy never ceases to amaze me. Like I said, it never ceases to amaze me that you can sit there and cry about an illegal from El Salvador, you know, the Maryland man, you know, he a family man, you know, of course, you know, who beats his wife. Anyway, you had senators, Democratic senators, fly to El Salvador to sit with him, to talk with him, to say, you know what, you know, you've been wronged. You know, you're such a good guy. You know, your wife tells us so, you know, even though you beat her. Anyway, but that they'll get up in arms about. That they'll scream and yell. They will go to the highest hills and scream with the loudest megaphone the wrong of this whole situation. But when it comes to legitimate people, because of apartheid, you know, and how's that worked out? Really, how has apartheid worked out in South Africa since the 80s? You know, since Nelson Mandela. You know, remember Nelson Mandela? For those of you old heads like myself, you know, Gen Xers, you remember Nelson Mandela. You know, there was, you know, they led rallies. You had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people behind Nelson Mandela, you know, to stop South African apartheid. You had videos. You had musicians. You had some of the biggest artists in the world do concerts regarding South Africa. And what has happened in the 35, 40 years since? It's gotten worse. It's gotten a shitload worse. And yet, 49 South Afrikaners come over here to start a new life. You know, men, women, children, grandma and grandpas, little babies. You know, they want to start a new life. But no, you got those like Al Sharpton and other knuckleheads who've got issue with this because one, they're not black. Two, neither one of them is named Juan or Jorge. Wow. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share, subscribe to it. Hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. Continue spreading the word about the show. Appreciate you guys watching as always. And we'll see you next time. Peace.